Hello, everyone, and welcome to Earp Sister Feels. This is our video number 28. My name is Kevin Batchelder, and on this particular recording, we are going to be discussing the Earp Sister scenes that took place in the second episode of season 4 of Wynonna Earp, Friends in Low Places. And we've got a great group of friends here to talk about it, so let me quickly introduce each of our participants here, starting first with Jess.
Hi.
And then we also have Kylie.
I'm back.
And Alyssa.
I'm back too.
Jill.
I'm here.
And Rita.
Hello.
All right. So for those who are new to these videos, which is wonderful since we have so many new Earpers and folks checking out lots of fandom resources, we do this series of videos as we look at the series and we specifically talk about the Earp Sister scenes and Earp Sister stuff in given episodes. Been having some fun doing that, and it's great now to be doing these here in season 4 via Zoom, so we get a chance to have all of us together at the same time. So we're kind of learning as we go too, folks. But again, thank you for all the awesome feedback on our first video for season 4. It was great, much appreciated, social media and on YouTube. Wonderful to see. So if you do have any topics or things you might see in a particular episode and want to have us specifically address them, bring them up, whatever it might be, don't hesitate. Reach out. On any of the social media platforms. We are on Twitter at Earp Sister Feels. And on the YouTube video, any of the comments there, we'll be glad to take a look at them. We tend to record early in the week, often by Tuesday or so, after the episodes air, so we can get these out as quickly as possible. But love to hear your thoughts. This is very much a community project. That's why there's so many of us here. And we want to make sure that everybody enjoys it as well. So let's kind of talk. I think for me, certainly one of the great things here, we had no scenes in that first episode of season 4, the two of them together, and we got more here, which was just wonderful, wonderful to see. So
Jess is definitely having feelings about this.
Like their first interaction, like my heart was broken, but then by the end, like Waverly becoming Waverly again, my heart was mended, and I had lots of feelings. So does Piper.
I'm happy. Oh, go ahead.
No, go ahead.
I was gonna say, I'm happy it didn't take as long as I was worried it was going to for them to have their first scene together.
Yeah, and even before they were together, I know for me, one of the biggest Earp Sister Feels part of it, though, was when we did see Waverly climbing, if you will, into her throne chair a little bit earlier in the episode, because after all the discussion back in season 3 about turning to stone, I was afraid that something might happen very quickly once she sat down.
Yeah.
I don't know if anybody else did, but I was yelling at the screen at that point.
Yeah, like their first interaction in this episode, you can tell that it's not our Waverly. Like the throne, the garden, whatever it may be, like was definitely controlling her, like her words and the way that she was interacting with Wynonna, because you could kind of see like that coldness was there that we haven't really seen between her and Wynonna.
I mean, and props to Dom in that scene, because to say that her face was like stone, that would be a little like too nail on the head there, but like even just the way like her mannerisms and like how she was sitting and how she approached the whole thing, and then she just freaking threw Wynonna like across the I don't know weird corridor with doors. I'm not sure. But I honestly, I forgot that their first interaction was so not good.
I might say violent.
Cold.
Violent, yes, violent would be a good choice of words. I forgot that was their first interaction this season, because we had like some soft moments last episode, even though they weren't together. And their first interaction this whole season is just tossing.
Although their first interaction on the show was violent as well in some ways, right? So
yeah,
kind of came all circle back.
On brand.
Yeah, very on brand.
Yeah, and I was actually struck. I had been thinking about, when Waverly did that little nod and it threw Wynonna like 10 feet, 20 feet, however far it threw her. And Wynonna's reaction was just to go, "What the hell, Waverly?" Like, she wasn't really mad at Waverly. She was just like, "Seriously, what the hell? Like, we're sisters. Why are you even, what the hell?"
Mhm.
And it actually, for some reason, it reminded me way back in the first episode when Wynonna was looking at the bulletin board for the first time. And then she said, "You're supposed to be," and she smacked Waverly and said, "You're supposed to be whack normal." And Waverly just had this little, "Oh." And for some reason, this just reminded me, like, this was Waverly, like, pouncing on her and throwing away, Wynonna, 20 feet in the air. And Wynonna coming back with, like, "Oh, what the hell?" It was still so them, even though I absolutely agree. Waverly was terrifying. She was so cold. I was a little afraid of Guardian Waverly.
And that's, I think Jess touched on it a little bit, because she was very non-Waverly, very, I don't want to say robotic, but just matter of fact. This is what I have to do. And even the way she sat in that chair, I don't know if you folks noticed it, very rigid and arms on the arm. It's not the casual way we see her normally. So that's when I got worried that, is something changing because of what she did by sitting in the throne.
The
She didn't
music
even
in that.
acknowledge Wynonna, like, with her face. Like, she's acknowledged Doc, she acknowledged not Nicole, but like, she gets on the throne, and even though her memory's been sort of like fuzzy, as soon as she got to the throne and Wynonna turns the corner, there's just nothing. It's like, didn't even matter. Which feelings.
And just like I think Kevin mentioned, just the dialogue too. Like, she's like, "I'm the guardian, you're the champion," and like Wynonna's like, "No, you're my sister."
Yes. Yeah, that's when I totally agree, Jess. That's like when the feels came, and it was, I don't even know now, I'm actually just sort of thinking about it live here. Waverly has always been the one that believes in the curse and believes in the destiny more than Wynonna. And, it really was Wynonna once again saying, "Screw it. The curse is over. We're done. It's just you and it's just me, and let's go live our lives."
Yeah.
And Waverly, I suppose not surprisingly, was the one going, I've spent Waverly has spent her entire life researching this curse and this family, whatever it is about the Earps. And now she's got this place in it and she wants to hold on to it. You can debate whether it's for her or if she's doing it for humanity. But it was Wynonna that came in and said, "Screw it. Let's just go live our lives."
Yeah. And not only like now, like she seems to like have all the knowledge of the garden, of like the angels. She's like, the guardians, they don't get to love. And I'm like, I want to know more about that.
Yeah.
And I want to know is what's making her say those things? Is there something controlling her, influencing her, or is it just literally, like you were talking about, this idea of respecting a curse and the history of what it is? In other words, is she doing it because she thinks she should, or is something influencing her in the garden to it?
And for me, like in the beginning of episode 1, like I thought it was like more of Waverly doing it because she thinks she has to, but like through episode 1 and 2, we see her like memories being altered or like forgetting something, but then like she kind of remembers. And I think the moment like when she's on the stone, kind of whatever is in the garden, whatever is part of being on the throne, I think that's like fully immersed itself into Waverly.
Well, because she asked for help, and Waverly does not ask for help ever.
Yeah.
She's like a whole bottle of emotional baggage, but she asks for help. I can't think of a time where she's asked for anyone's help prior to this in any of the 4 seasons. But she like very specifically to Wynonna, like she knows that, because even with the whole Miction thing, Nicole is the one that's like, let her help you. and she's just like, no. But this moment though, like after the ring, I think that's a big trust thing, which is also a big thing for Waverly. But the help moment for me was like, I got a little teary on that one.
And to add to that, like, it took Wynonna bringing out the ring, bringing up Nicole, for her to kind of start to come back to like to our Waverly. And like right after she says like, Wynonna, help, they have this look, and it's like Waverly nods, like she can't physically put the ring on herself. Like we see Wynonna have to lift her hand to put the ring on. After the ring is on, we see like Wynonna have to like lift her out of the throne. And it's like, I want to know why, like what is keeping her like so in that stone-esque.
The weight of the responsibility is what I was seeing that as.
Ooh.
Kind of the same thing though with Wynonna, with Peacemaker. Like it's gone now, and everyone's like, "Oh, Wynonna's lighter." Well, the weight of that thing is gone. So, in my mind, that's where that went. But then,
although for all of the fact that Wynonna doesn't have Peacemaker, she freaking steps up in these first 2 episodes. Like,
she's a biker, Becky, you know, like she can do
And
it.
like if part of it might be like that she's like trying to prove to herself, she's like, I don't need this gun. But like,
Well, and I mean, Nicole said as much, right? It was always going to be you, Wynonna. You're the one that has to do this. You're going to be the one that has to go and do all of this. And you know, even though she doesn't have a magic gun anymore, but she's still the one that has to go and
do the thing.
do whatever it is. It's going to be Wynonna. But that moment when she picked Waverly up and hugged her and turned around, and it was like, and this is part of it is like for Waverly, it's just like, there are so many people in the fandom, myself included. Maybe I'm just speaking for me. Like you just sort of want to pick Waverly up and protect her. Like you just, cause you're just a tiny little Amazon warrior princess angel, and I just want to hold you and pick you up and twirl you around and set you down again and let you go. And so I love that moment when Wynonna did that. You know, she picked her up, she twirled her and set her back down, and they ran off together. And I went, that's just perfect. Perfect.
And they said, and like Wynonna's like, we always Earp and do.
Right.
I think I don't know if I'm sure, but I think that's like a little nod that Emily put in, because I've seen her on Twitter more use Earp in that sense, like that it's adjective or a verb.
It's a verb.
Yeah, something you do.
One of those things.
It's a verb, something you do.
I don't like words.
Well, and we you know, many of us talked about it, you know, online certainly. In the first 2 episodes, without the gun, how much Wynonna has been doubting herself, you know, needing her family, her, you know, the whole group to be a part of it. And a great example, as was pointed out, is Nicole being the one, because Wynonna is devastated that she can't drag Nicole with her through the portal. They have to do it alone. So it's again her realizing that, okay, I don't need the magic gun, and I don't, you know, so to speak, need help. I just have to do it, and because she's protecting Waverly, and that she had that conversation with Rachel just before going into the portal, that she would do anything, including killing someone, whatever it would take to protect her. So that's what really, you know, sets you up, and that's where she's willing to do anything. And I absolutely adored, as we've said, that when she tries to reason with her to a certain degree, you know, come with me, let's do it, and you get in the very cold, not just physically in the cold, but the very cold language back about what I have to do, that Wynonna is able to realize the ring and her relationship with Nicole to, quote, snap her out of it. I mean, that is just so poetic and beautiful. That's a sister knowing another sister and how to, quote, get through them.
Yeah.
I kind of feel like a bit with that scene that Waverly doesn't actually remember Wynonna.
Ooh.
in that way. Which I feel like they've actually been in that garden for a long time. And that might not be the first time Wynonna's been there in a way. But the whole thing where, so for me, Waverly sitting in front of that fire with Doc, Waverly sitting in front of a fire is usually something that happens with Wynonna. And I think that fire is symbolic of, for like, the fire's going out throughout the 2 episodes. And it just, for me, it felt like it was symbolic and a metaphor of actually forgetting like why you were there in the first place and what got you to where you are now. A bit. I could be totally wrong, but
I'm rolling with it because it's
I'm rolling with it. I mean, in the first episode, they very much, they were losing their memory. And, I mean, you know, Doc was kind of going, Wynonna.
Waverly made
And
no mention
Waverly
of it.
was like, red hair, brown eyes, you know, like promising themselves that they'll remember it. So they were losing, I'm rolling with this fire as a metaphor.
not only that, like in 402, the Earp Sister scenes, there's a lot of talk about home. So it's like maybe that fire burning out represents the home and like her forgetting her home.
It's interesting though, because I love the Earp Sister scenes beside the fire, but it didn't even register to me until you just said it, that there was a fire scene. Like, you know what I mean? Because I'm so used to the 2 of them. Yeah, but then they split it apart and now it was her and Doc, and to me it didn't feel the same as the Earp Sister like fire scenes. And so like again, I didn't even register it till you said it.
But that's the thing with that. And I mean, one of my favorite recurring lines from the show is, we should do this more often with that fire. I think it's recurring.
At least twice, or at least
Yeah. But I'll use that a lot with like my friends and family. Like, Pond, you are so loud. But like that's something that both of them should recall, and I think Wynonna remembers all of it, but I don't think Waverly does anymore by the time they finally get to that point. And
I'm totally with that, because even the book says Gibson on it, like back to the Earp Gibson thing. And Wynonna calls Waverly Earp at least twice in that scene when she's like on the throne. And I don't know, maybe that like jogs her memory. I think she took her own book. That's a whole other.
Right, yeah. No, but I do think it very much struck me that with the books, that Waverly Gibson, the only time we've ever heard her referred to as Waverly Gibson is in a universe in which Wynonna doesn't exist.
Which is why she doesn't remember her.
Right.
Yeah.
That's the only time we've ever referred to her as Waverly Gibson, is in a universe where Wynonna doesn't exist. So that when I saw Waverly Gibson, I was like, that's only when Wynonna doesn't exist.
So going along that line, then we saw her take that book, and she was sitting by the fire looking at it when Doc came up, and she quickly put it away. Now, was that embarrassment that she's reading her own book, or did she need to read it to remember who she really was?
You don't think
so you think she took her own book?
Well, I don't know. Maybe, but we all know that's close the eyes and throw at the dartboard. Okay, but 5 minutes from now, one of you can come up with a better theory, and I'll go, okay, I'm wrong. So I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know who's.
Yeah, I didn't take it as like embarrassment, but just like thinking that like it's only for her eyes, maybe. I don't know, like.
I'm just hoping it's not a rewrite history situation. Where
like the book could be so many things, and like to think about. I don't know.
Yeah,
I mean, but there's a whole song called "Write My Story."
Yes, and only
there's. Yeah. And I had speculated when I was doing a review for this for another project that she chose Doc Holliday's book because that was the only other name besides her own she recognized.
Yeah.
No,
didn't it was a universe that she didn't recognize. She didn't remember Wynonna or Nicole even.
I'm actually.
And so Doc Holliday, since he was there with her in the garden, that was the only other name she recognized besides her own. So she took Doc's book.
Well, it's interesting if you think about Doc's reaction to later than reading what the book was when he opened it. It would be interesting if it is his own book, if that reaction fits with why he goes basically looking for her. But,
Yeah, which does bring us to the next. It wasn't really an Earp Sister scene, but I loved it, which is when Doc and Wynonna reunited. And Doc's first, when back in Purgatory.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, okay.
Sorry, not the Dollywood reunion. but back in Purgatory, and Doc said, "Where's Waverly?" And Wynonna was like, "Don't worry about Waverly. We know where she went."
Yeah.
And I thought that was like such a growth from
You stop by Rita's work.
Rita, yeah, but that in past, Wynonna would be both Wynonna and Waverly. Their first concern would be the other, and now they've got to this point where they'll be fine.
Well, like Wynonna's, her first thought when she realized she was back in Purgatory was Waverly. Waverly's was Nicole. And like we would not have the Way Hot reunion if we didn't have the Earp Sister reunion. And like for Wynonna to go and do that and realize that's what she needed to tell Waverly in order to make her remember, like she wasn't doing it for herself. She was doing it for Waverly and her best friend Nicole. And that is growth. For Wynonna.
Well, Waverly said, "Take me home," when she picked her up off of the throne in the garden.
Mm-hmm.
And they all waking up just said home.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like they're not in the same place.
Me neither.
Or the same time.
Me neither. I feel like how they filmed Wynonna and Doc approaching each other was like a little off. I don't know. There was something weird about it where I was expecting the camera to like not show the other's face or like have a different outfit on or something. I feel like they're all over the place.
I think they're stuck in
Also a whole other
sets of time.
I have a super angsty thought, but it's more Way Hot related.
I
so
love angsty thoughts.
It's super angsty.
Bring the angst.
And even like before they got out of the garden and like Wynonna wanting to bring the ring, but Waverly was like, no, like
She threw the ring away, right?
Never throw the ring away.
It's Takia's leap. And like I want to know if that's gonna come back to bite her in the butt, like her throwing the ring away. Like
It always comes back.
I don't think we're done with the garden. Like
I don't think we are either. But for Earp Sisters, I loved that they left, and Wynonna was saying, "The curse is over. We're done." And Waverly was like, "Yeah, screw this ring, whatever." And one of them said something about, "Let's even stop quoting the Bible. Like, screw these biblical references. Let's go."
My biblical bull bleep.
Right,
Yeah.
and so like both of them were very much like, it's time for us to start writing our own story, to quote a phrase. And it's really going to be a matter of, are they going to be able to do that? But I think they were both like, in that moment, I felt they were both there like, we're gonna, the past is the past, we've done what we can with it, and now we're gonna move forward as as two sisters.
On home. Yeah.
That ring is a boomerang, by the way.
It is. It keeps coming.
another
It keeps
song.
ricocheting back to them.
Mm-hmm.
It does, but I, like you were saying, Jess, though, I agree that Wynonna kind of used it as an anchor to keep going after Waverly. Not that she needed it, but it was a perfect way, even bringing it up with Nicole and the whole baby carrots mention and all that was wonderful. So I think it was a way to feel like, along with her personally just wanting her sister back, she felt that was the way to remind her why she also needed her back, was for Nicole. So I thought it was very telling, potentially, for Waverly to say that, no, this is, bull crap. It's another weight that we keep carrying around from the past. Screw it. Let's, like we said, write our own story going forward. So I thought it was very important when she chose to do that just before they're going to go back in. It really, to me, was like, yes, this is the past. the whole thing there. Because I mean, I think she also felt that weight of the garden, and as we've all pointed out, potentially with the book and around the fire and telling and using her, I don't know, crazy mojo to throw Wynonna 20 feet, that she was losing who Waverly was. I mean, we even saw it with Charlie a little bit last year when the times came when he was, if you will, thinking back or reminiscing about what he used to do. You could see him just kind of go into a daze. He was reciting things. It's almost like the emotion was drained or gone. And that's a little bit what we saw with Waverly. So that's where it's scary. And again, that's why the fact that she didn't turn to stone or get stuck there, thank my lucky stars, because I felt that was gonna be a little too on the nose. So I just think I loved that.
And also, Kevin, does it mean that Kevin lied?
That's what we're going to lead into, because again, getting a little off the Earp Sister topic, but again, we heard Kevin give that, oh, don't get me started on Eve. So I mean,
Yeah.
was this something that was just being made up for them to keep Eve at bay?
Mm-hmm.
As maybe part of that story. As usual, any of these, whether it's BBD or whatever overseeing group, they always spin the truth to the benefit of what they're trying to do. I don't know. It's a heck of a good question, Joe. It's got, something's coming back on that.
The Earp Sisters often too.
Yeah, because certainly, and I love paying attention to wardrobe, and I think particularly now the wardrobe that was chosen can't be entirely dismissed, because while in the garden, Waverly was wearing the same wardrobe she wore in the episode with Kevin, that white feathery jacket, and then when she came back to Purgatory, she was actually in the clothing that she left Purgatory in, which is like the salmon colored pants and a white coat, a strangely like doctor-like coat. It's very odd. Anyway, that's what she was wearing when she got dragged into the garden. But in the garden, she was wearing that very feathery thing, which was the episode with Kevin, talking about her turning to stone. So, then I start going, well, is this just, Kevin had planted this, like, this is what is going to happen if you go there. So that's what Waverly has in her mind, is what the garden should look like. It's all very, I would like to just take up residence for like 2 hours in Emily Andrus's head.
Right. I took it like in that first Earp Sister scene, like it's not literal stone, but it's like like that's the way I took it, because like Emily, you could say stone and it could be kind of like what we saw, but there still could be that aspect of her turning to stone. Maybe the longer that she was there, maybe she would have, or like Kevin could have not known the full answers. I don't know. Yeah, there's lots of
sort of her heart turned to stone kind of thing, in a metaphorical sense.
Well, I also wondered, like, if Eve was never maybe the way she was when we saw her at the beginning, and the more time you spend in the garden, the more you become like that. And so maybe that's like Waverly and Doc were starting to forget things. They were starting to get to a place maybe where eventually they would have ended up like Eve. And so once you get in the garden, if you're there for too long, when you come back out of it, like, you're just not the same. I don't know. That was one thing I was wondering about too, is like, what is, if that's to keep Eve in, maybe it wasn't actually to keep Eve in a good way, like to protect everybody else from her, but to make her the way she was. But again, that
weaponize her.
Yeah. I mean, it could be far off, I don't know, but just even like if the longer Waverly stayed, the more weaponized maybe she would become too. Like, I don't know.
See, and now I'm getting really stressed. And now I'm getting really stressed. Like, I love that Nicole and Waverly had some time together, but now I really feel like Waverly and Wynonna need to get back together to save humanity.
Very soon.
Very soon.
We see a few scenes that they will be together at least somehow in some universe.
And there were smiles. There were smiles in those scenes.
Yeah.
Wet t-shirt contest.
Yeah.
It's coming.
Less.
Yeah. I will say the other. Oh, go ahead.
No, go ahead.
I was gonna say the other thing that I loved was the music in the episode when the two of them reunited. It had a very epic feel to it. The
Yes.
music. Again, I'm not a musician, so like I don't know like all of that stuff. But for me, it felt very epic. And then how it got softer the moment that she had the ring and she brought the ring out, and just kind of like it was just like for me that's what
Very
made
hard
that
part.
whole reunion was the music, and just like you could feel it.
Brilliant.
Yes,
And somebody, you know, I'm thinking about that scene also. This is sort of a totally random thought. Is I think it was Nato that said, "Hey, in my favorite TV show, one sister proposed to the other. Don't worry, it's fine." And but also, in addition to looking like a proposal, it also very much looked like a supplicant kneeling before their queen, like somebody that's on a throne. You get down on one knee in front of them,
like admitting themselves.
that's just what happened, you know, and I you know, also had this, like, that's just a very different dynamic for the Earp sisters, for Wynonna to literally be kneeling in front of Waverly on a throne.
We
It's
saw
also how you talk to a little kid.
What's that?
That's how I talk to like small kids, like when I've worked with
kneel
kids
down
before,
to be
or like younger siblings, and or to remind someone that you are like when she in that one episode, I think it was season 1 with the bubblegum sake,
104.
with her getting down.
Yeah.
Just to make you
Those to me, those are two very different. Like in 104, I think Wynonna did it to show that she was vulnerable, that she was Waverly was fully in control. For this, I felt like she was doing it, yes, to surrender, but now to say that like she fully trusts Waverly, like she's her backup, that kind of a thing.
Yeah. Either way, you know, like, I don't know what it means. I felt it was just a very powerful image of Wynonna on this platform kneeling in front of Waverly on a throne. You know, it's just overall, that's pretty powerful imagery.
And like from that moment onward, Wynonna doesn't, because we've talked about Wynonna's doubting herself in the season, but she also doesn't second guess anything that Waverly suggests, or like when Waverly throws the ring away, she's not like, should you maybe not do that? Or, you know, she's not like, don't, or, I mean, because she stops Waverly from doing lots of things pretty frequently. And is one to step in front of her to protect her. There's all of that, like, you know, the body language and just like the overall protectiveness, but she doesn't do any of that. And now that I'm saying it, I don't know if it's growth, but maybe it is just still Wynonna doubting herself even in their relationship. But I feel like that was also important. She's just like, okay, yeah, I'll go along with you.
And to that, like, she goes along with Wynonna being the first to go through the doors, because, you know, maybe end of season 3 we would have seen Wynonna say, no, you have to go first, like, I will, making sure that she goes before her. But
they kind of threw her in there.
Yeah, they kind of threw her in there. Yeah, he was too busy flipping off the Garden of Eden.
Yeah. Yeah. But you know what we have not brought up? Kevin, okay, go ahead, Kevin.
No. I was waiting for someone else to bring it up.
Is the she will baby girl, like, in response to she didn't even say yes, which, like, for me, when she said that line, I was like, is that what Waverly has been thinking when she remembered this whole time is Nicole didn't say yes, but then, like, hearing Wynonna say, you know, she will baby girl, I like that. I was like, oh my God, my heart. And then the line that comes after, I think, is going to be one of my top at the list of top favorite lines, when she says, it's time to start living for ourselves. Like,
yeah, the baby girl just broke me. Broke me. Because it was such a powerful scene. We were worried about both of them. We didn't know what's going to happen. You know, so at least for me as a viewer, I'm very engaged in the moment. I'm hoping Wynonna's going to get through to her. It looks like with the ring she does. And Waverly makes that statement about she didn't even say yes. And then to bring it out then, talk about hitting us when we're vulnerable.
And
Oh
also,
my God.
yeah, and I think because
Oh my God.
it was so loud up until that point, and then it was almost like those last few lines, like those lines were like quieter. For me, that's what really broke me, is like the softness of those, like the back and forth at that moment. Because at that, before that, it's like they're kind of almost like she's yelling at her in some ways, or speaking loudly to kind of get her to like get out of this mode, and then it almost becomes this soft, like, you know, sort of quieter moment. And that for me is what like really was like, oh. I just was like, oh,
like right after Wynonna says that line, for me, like that's when you could see the change in Waverly's eyes, like that warmth kind of come back,
the help, and like it's all soft and very, yeah, that to me was just like, oof.
And I mean, what struck me also about that is in the first episode, you know, Wynonna taunted Nicole with like, hey, I found this ring. You got anything that you want to tell me about it? And Nicole said she proposed to me, and Wynonna said, what did she say? And Nicole was like, I'd tell you first. And of course, she ended up then telling Nicole first. So it was, or telling Wynonna first. And it was Wynonna that answered Waverly's proposal to Nicole. You know, it
On her knee.
Waverly didn't get an answer from Nicole. She got it from Wynonna through, you know, from Nicole through Wynonna. So it really brought sort of this, like, there's now 3 of them, and Wynonna has fully accepted that she is going to share her baby sister, and she's fine with that. You know, she's good with that. She loves seeing Wynonna loves seeing Waverly so happy, and knows that that's how to lure her back. It's not just, you know, she accepts that it's not like she alone can't lure her back. It takes this other person, and she accepts that. And I think that's like, that really also gets me.
Which is so the opposite of what Nicole was even telling her. Okay. Okay.
But I mean, we love, obviously, the Way Hot relationship, and like the alternate universe episode, and the whole idea of them being destined for each other, regardless of circumstance or universe. So what happens? The Earp sisters end up in the garden, in another realm. And what is it that helps reunite them and get them back? The Way Hot relationship. You know, I love the way that the different relationships, whether romantic or otherwise, on this show are not individual. They all have such a big impact on each of them. And it's just so beautiful to watch it play.
Yeah. And I mean, Nicole, you know, telling Wynonna, it has to be you. You're the one that has to go save Waverly. You have to go save Waverly for me. And, you know, Wynonna was like, I'm here to save Waverly for Nicole. But also, you know, just as you had mentioned earlier, Kevin, minutes before, had basically told Rachel, I will kill you if you don't let me go through that portal for my sister.
Yep. Bullets won't stop us. She doesn't, you know, they're talking about determination, that look, and that Wynonna voice. That's what I love about the growth of the character of Wynonna, because we talked about it going back to season 1, take no crap from nobody.
Yeah.
And here she is, like we said, down on one knee to her younger sister, to her baby sister, just to do whatever it took to be able to get it back where it needed to be. That, you know, Wynonna that we knew early on would never have done anything like that. I don't think anyway.
No.
I don't think she would have known how to get her back also, because that's like a huge selfless thing to be like, I'm not the person that's going to pull Waverly out of this. To A, have the self-awareness, B, knowing her sister, and C, just being able to like step out of yourself and be like, okay, like I'm the heir to a lot of things, but like in this situation, no matter how badly I want to be the one to save this situation, to fix this problem, it isn't me. No amount of sex jokes are gonna win.
So we appreciate them all.
Like, even saying about how Wynonna wouldn't have done it before. You look at last season when she like knocked her out and put her in the back of the pickup truck and was like locked her up, like, you know what I mean? Like, it's like now here she is being like, okay, you know what, you are the one that has to do this and stuff.
Yeah.
So it's just interesting to see, even from one season, like how different that is.
Yeah, she realized she couldn't just be the bull in the china shop like she likes to be. She, like you said, Rita, she had to realize, I have to do things differently. And people, that's one of the things we always talk about. It's so tough for people to change, and we see Wynonna changing. And that's just awesome to see. I mean, and to kind of cross from show to fandom and how they all tie together. When that baby girl scene happened, I tweeted out, that it broke me and how important it was. And I included the collage, Jill, that you created of all the baby girl mentions to say we now have another one to add to this list.
Mm-hmm.
And Kat Burrell saw it and retweeted it like 30 seconds later. And, it just blew up. But I mean, it's such a great example of showing how everything ties together and everything comes together throughout the show and the fandom and the understanding of all of this. And so many of the newer Earpers, again, not totally realizing the importance of baby girl, much like we all learned, from the panel. So that's that discovery side of the show and this fandom that, is just wonderful to see with so many new of the Earpers. Is, many of us just instantly are crying when we say that phrase, the baby girl. But there's so many people who still get to experience it now for the first time. That's a beautiful thing, and we get to be a part of it.
It's even crazy to think of like how the baby girl is just 2 words, and like, who would have thought when you first watched the show how much of an impact 2 words could end up carrying throughout 4 seasons of a show. It's just incredible to think about. Like, I remember like the first time hearing it being like, oh, that, like, it wasn't like as impactful as like now. And it's that, to me, is like the weight of the show carrying with just 2 words through 4 seasons, which is incredible to me anyways. That's something that I don't know whether it was an original intention and now just because of the impact of it, it's carried through. But I would love to know if like baby girl from the beginning is something that like they would know would hit everyone the way it did, or if it's just the way that Mel portrays it. Like, that stuff to me is so fascinating, because I wouldn't have, if you had talked to me, one back at the very beginning, I would never have thought, oh, someone saying baby girl would make me instantly be like, oh, like, like, it's just so, yeah. It's just so fascinating how strong those 2 words have carried through.
And like, I think Mel and Dom, like, they touched on it at the Expo Earp Sisters panel about they didn't realize it. Like, I wonder if Emily realized it. Like us just thinking, like, I thought, like, that came to my mind is, did Emily realize like that could have been baby girl is like for a lot of us. And so now I want to ask for that. and now, like, like, you bringing that up to them and them seeing that collage, I wonder if like now when they're like reading the scenes and they see baby girl, like if they have any kind of different reaction to it now.
Oh, and that occurred to me on this one because, yeah, since they were not aware of it until it came out of, at Earp Expo last June, I can't help but wonder when each of them got the script and saw that there for the first time, did they now have an even greater understanding of what it meant to the family?
Well, because
You'll have to ask them, Kevin.
Ask
You'll just have to ask them.
Oh, if I get a
I
chance
know you
to.
But and it also, it's again, though, I keep going back because I'm still stuck on the fact of Wynonna kneeling in front of Waverly. She was on her knee when she called her baby girl. So, usually when Wynonna calls her baby girl, it's, this is she's talking about somebody who's younger, who's, I don't like the word weaker, but, somebody that she wants to protect, that she feels like she needs to protect. It's her baby girl. And she delivers that line again on one knee. which is just also a sort of a juxtaposition of
Mhm.
the phrase baby girl while also being very deferential.
Yeah.
Mhm.
And I like the words right before it, she will, like baby girl has always been like a Wynonna and Waverly specific thing. But now Wynonna bringing in the love of Waverly's life, adding on to that, like all of it.
Put it together.
I do have to
And-
say, I think Wynonna says it for her though too, like for
Mhm.
herself.
Yeah.
Because in the first episode, she does say baby girl, but she says it when she's like pretending to be like when she's talking to herself and she like does Doc's accent
Oh, yeah.
and like does Waverly's accent, but she says baby girl, which is literally like only for her own comfort.
Yeah.
So I feel like probably just like you, Jill, and all of us, Waverly on the throne is pretty terrifying. So I would imagine like if you're hoping for like one last like last ditch effort to like maybe find your sister again, hopefully bring her back, that's why
Mhm.
she would say it. Also for Waverly's benefit, but I think that it is a big Wynonna thing.
Yeah.
And from the writing point of view, we can certainly ask at some point at some con, but Emily's talked about, I think on the podcast and probably in other situations, how, especially that first season, since the entire first season was shot before it had ever aired, how bringing back near the end of season 1, the stupid Carl stuff.
Yeah.
But saying she had no idea if people would even remember it, if it would hit or it would just be lost,
Yeah.
the audience. I've got to feel that baby girl, once a couple of them had occurred, from a writer's point of view, this is a sharp group of writers to be like, oh, okay, we got something here. Let's go back to this well. We know it can hit, at least from a writer's point of view.
And to not overuse it
Yes.
is also great. Like the fact that they know the special, like how special it is, and to use it in moments that make the most sense, really, kind of hits home.
I mean, I know you guys know this, but anybody that's new that's watching, like the words baby girl in the very first episode, like that's when it changed for me. Like that's when I knew that this show for me was going to be something special.
Mm-hmm.
We've spent like 30 minutes talking about 2 words, and I love it.
We are Earpers. We obsess. Yes.
I love it.
No.
Yeah.
No, so it's some good stuff, and we're only 2 episodes in. So, like I said, there's lots to unpack and find out where we go from here, where they go from here, interactions. So,
Is this a bad time to say I would like Willa back?
No, it's always a good time.
Okay.
you
I
never
think
I
miss
would
an
love to
opportunity.
get Willa back right
It's
now.
going to be like this tradition that I mute you at least once.
Oh, Jill, you miss me. Be real.
Willa should
I mean,
totally
hey,
come back.
if they rewrote history in that book, and that's where they end up, maybe Willa is around.
Now
Well,
I'm going
we've
to have to
got-
shush you too.
I will say,
Join the dark side, Kylie.
I was waiting for Eve to turn into Willa at one point.
Same.
we've got a shapeshifter. We got time travel.
Oh gosh,
Maybe she
you could
did.
put
Come
in
on.
No
Somebody.
rules.
anyone. Oh,
Anyone is available at any time now, folks. So
Yeah, because we saw like she does it. I think you talked about it on your podcast. Like she does it. This Eve character doesn't have to touch the person or that kind of thing. Like she
doesn't look like it.
in.
She could be Jeremy. She could be Wynonna. She could be Nicole in an instant. So why couldn't she be anybody else from this universe?
I'm kind of wondering if Waverly's blood is the whole reason she knew any of that stuff existed.
Ooh.
Ooh. Love getting that reason.
I'm like,
spicy.
Oh yeah,
Well-
because like right after that Earp Sister scene, like it pans to the blood thing, all on this music.
Right? And nothing happens. And you're like, why did you show that
Yeah.
5 seconds of the
That
blood
wasn't-
triangle?
That wasn't
Why?
just a mishap. Like
God,
Yeah.
I love not knowing, but
It's just a big
also I
period
hate not
joke.
knowing.
We're gonna see.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think when we were live tweeting, I declared the Earp Fifth Amendment and said, I'm just not even going to make any predictions because I know they're going to be wrong. So I reserve the right to not make predictions that were going to be horribly wrong.
I'm
Yeah,
not
they-
even can't not.
I know.
Same.
I'm just wishing for all the crazy stuff that nobody
Yeah.
else likes, and well, that 7 other people like, and willing it to be so.
We're
Huh.
crazy,
with this show,
crazy
you
is
never
kind of the
know.
Norse. Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. Yep. It's a good
It's on
chance of
brand.
it.
Mhm.
All right.
It's
Well,
like a
this
full,
has been,
full Earp Sister reunion.
yep, this has been some fun. We appreciate all of you folks tuning in to our Earp Sister Loves here, and all of these folks for joining me. This is a blast to do. So we really can't thank you enough. And like we said, feel free to share some thoughts during the week. Let us know. We'd be glad to touch on some things, or if you've got your own crazy theories related to these Earp Sister things, do share them, folks, on social media. We'd love to hear them and work them into some conversations. So we appreciate all of you checking us out. Appreciate all of the folks joining me tonight, and we hope you all take care.
Bye.
Bye, gang.
See ya.
Hey.
Bye.